The final cut is a masterpiece. But the first draft is a war zone. This is between the frames. Think about Back to the Future. What comes to mind? A time-traveling DeLorean, a wild-haired scientist yelling "Great Scott," and a teenager in a life preserver. I mean, a down vest. That teenager, Marty McFly, became an instant icon, the very definition of 80s cool. And for millions, Marty McFly is, and always will be, Michael J. Fox. But what if I told you that for the first 5 weeks of filming in late 1984, the role belonged to someone else entirely? His name was Eric Stoltz. He was a gifted, serious method actor, fresh off critical acclaim for his role in the film Mask. On paper, he was a rising star. But on set, director Robert Zemeckis, producer Steven Spielberg, and writer Bob Gale were watching their high-energy comedic adventure turn into something else. Something darker, heavier, and completely wrong. They were facing a terrible truth. They had cast the wrong Marty. This is the story of a decision that risked millions of dollars, a studio's faith, and the entire future of the film to save a classic from itself. The original plans seemed straightforward enough. Cast a talented actor, shoot the movie, and aim for a summer 1985 release. Zemeckis' first choice, Michael J. Fox, was unavailable. He was locked into a grueling schedule on the hit sitcom Family Ties, and the show's producer wouldn't release him. So they moved to their next choice, Eric Stoltz. Stoltz wasn't just talented, he was intense and deeply committed. He was a method actor, meaning he lived and breathed the character, staying in the persona of Marty McFly, even between takes. He insisted the cast and crew call him Marty, and he approached every scene with a deep psychological realism. The problem was, Back to the Future wasn't a drama. It was a sci-fi comedy adventure. As the first dailies started rolling in, Zemeckis and Gale felt a growing sense of dread. Stoltz was delivering a performance full of pathos and brooding intensity. The scene where Marty first sees the 1955 version of Hill Valley wasn't one of wide-eyed wonder. It was filled with a sense of dread and alienation. Even the comedic moments felt heavy, weighed down by an earnestness that just wasn't funny. The on-set atmosphere grew tense. Stoltz's method approach created a distance between him and the other actors. His interpretation of Marty as a troubled soul didn't gel with the light-hearted, almost vaudevillian energy of Christopher Lloyd S. Doc Brown or the screwball comedy of Lee Thompson S. Lorraine Baines. The crew began to feel it too. The film was losing its spark. Yet the studio, Universal Pictures, was nervous. They had already invested millions, and stopping production seemed unthinkable. They pushed Zemeckis to keep going, hoping it would all come together in the edit. But with every new reel of footage, the director's sinking feeling became a certainty. This wasn't a minor issue. They had the wrong Marty, and it was slowly killing their movie. The breaking point, the moment of no return, came 5 weeks into shooting. Zemeckis was reviewing the dailies for the climactic Enchantment Under the Sea, Dance and the Clock Tower sequence. This was supposed to be the thrilling, nail-biting finale. But watching Stoltz, Zemeckis saw something that made his blood run cold. Instead of playing Marty's desperation with comedic panic and frantic energy, Stoltz played it with raw, terrifying anxiety. It was powerful acting, but it belonged in a different movie. It was the performance of a man genuinely on the verge of a breakdown, not a plucky hero trying to beat the clock. Zemeckis turned to Bob Gale and said, "I think we need to recast." This decision was the pivotal mechanism that would save the film, but it was a monumental risk. Zemeckis and Gale had to go to their mentor and producer, Steven Spielberg. They sat him down in a screening room and showed him a 20-minute assembly of scenes. Spielberg saw it immediately. He agreed the tone was all wrong. With Spielberg's crucial backing, they approached Universal Pictures president Sid Sheinberg. It was one of the hardest conversations of their careers. They were admitting that the first 5 weeks of shooting, representing nearly a third of the production schedule and a cost of $3 million, were unusable. They were asking for millions more to reshoot everything. To the studio's immense credit, after seeing the footage, they agreed. They trusted their filmmakers. But there was a condition. They had to get their original choice. This set off the Fox Gambit. They went back to the producer of Family Ties and made an unprecedented proposal. Michael J. Fox would work on the sitcom during the day, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then, a van would pick him up and drive him straight to the Back to the Future set, where he would film all night, from roughly 6:30 p.m. until 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning. On weekends, he would shoot the more complex daytime exterior scenes. It was a brutal, physically punishing schedule for a 23-year-old actor. Fox himself later described surviving on just a few hours of sleep a night, napping in the back of the production van between locations. But he agreed. The moment Michael J. Fox stepped on set, the entire energy of the production changed. He was naturally funny, quick-witted, and had an incredible gift for physical comedy. He didn't need to act like a charismatic teenager, he just was one. The crew, who had endured weeks of a somber, intense atmosphere, were revitalized. Laughter returned to the set. When they reshot the first scene in the Twin Pines Mall parking lot, everyone knew they had made the right choice. Fox's version of Marty was everything they had imagined, relatable, charming, and funny, with an underlying sense of warmth. The contrast was stark. The few fragments of Stoltz's footage that have been released show a haunting what-if, a talented actor giving a great performance in the wrong film. This recast didn't just swap one actor for another, it fundamentally altered the film's DNA. The most immediate change was the tonal shift. Fox's performance injected the exact blend of comedy and heart the script needed. He could sell a punchline with a simple facial expression, but also make you believe in the emotional stakes of his parents' romance and his friendship with Doc. He made Marty an everyman hero you rooted for, not a tragic figure you worried about. This led to a revolution in the on-screen chemistry. The dynamic between Fox's Marty and Christopher Lloyd's Doc Brown is one of the most beloved in cinema history. It's playful, chaotic, and feels like a genuine, if eccentric, friendship. Lloyd, a classically trained actor himself, finally had a scene partner who could match his high-energy, almost cartoonish performance. With Stoltz, the relationship was more of a serious student-to-mentor dynamic. With Fox, it was an adventure between two lovable oddballs. This chemistry became the heart and soul of the entire trilogy. And of course, there's the cultural impact. Michael J. Fox didn't just play Marty McFly, he became Marty McFly. His charm and charisma turned him into one of the biggest stars of the decade. It's almost impossible to imagine the film's sequels, the animated series, the merchandise, and its enduring global fame without his specific, irreplaceable performance. The unsung insight here is that great filmmaking isn't just about assembling talented people. It's about finding the right alchemy. The right actor in the right role doesn't just play a part, they define a film's soul. Zemeckis' gut feeling that something was wrong and his courage to act on it proved that. So, what's the real legacy here, beyond just great movie trivia? The core principle is simple but powerful. Better a painful fix than a flawed finish. Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, and Steven Spielberg chose a short-term creative and financial catastrophe over a long-term artistic regret. They stared down the barrel of a potential disaster and had the courage to dismantle a third of their movie and rebuild it from the ground up, all because a core element wasn't working. This is a lesson that applies far beyond Hollywood. For any creator, engineer, or leader, it's a reminder. If a fundamental part of your project feels wrong, listen to that feeling. No matter how much time, money, or effort you've already invested, have the courage to make the hard change before it's too late. The most enduring, beloved, and successful creations often come from that painful but necessary willingness to tear it all down and start again. What other creative projects can you think of that were transformed by a brave, late-stage overhaul? Let us know in the comments below. And for more stories from Between the Frames, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching.